All right, thanks for coming tonight, everyone. We are excited to be here with Phoenixville Area Transition. And I'm Rachel Griffith. I'm a board member of the Phoenixville Area Time Bank. I'm here with one of our other board members, Mike Schumann, and some esteemed volunteers of the Time Bank. And before we get started, I'll just say that we're going to do questions at the end, but please feel free to put your questions in the chat as we go along. And I will moderate at the end questions for Jane. And also, please keep yourself muted unless you're actively asking a question, just to cut down on background noise. And so many of you are already familiar with the Time Bank, but for those who aren't, it's nice to see you. And I just want to let you know a little bit about the Time Bank, who we are and why we're hosting this event tonight. So we're a 501c3 nonprofit. We were founded in 2004, and we facilitate exchanges of services between individual members of the Time Bank, so people like you and me, and also our organizational members, which are nonprofits in the community, of which Phoenixville Area Transition is one. So basically how our service exchange works is that if you volunteer for one of our partner nonprofits, or if you help one of our other members out for an hour, say it's dog walking or volunteering at a nonprofit's event, then you get an hour that you can then use on something that you need, whether it's yoga lessons, piano lessons, all sorts of things, whatever you can dream up. And so that's what we do. And our mission is to connect diverse individuals by facilitating exchanges of each person's equally valued time and talents, building a generous, supportive, and fully inclusive community throughout the Phoenixville area. And we also have activity groups where members with a shared interest can get together around their interest and learn from one another, spend time together, make friends, and earn time dollars while they're doing it. And so I encourage you to check out our website to see what our various activity groups are and other ways you can get involved. We also have frequent socials and other events for members, which are also open to non-members. So please come and check out one of our events. And why we're hosting this series, so we'd like each one of our organizational members to come have an opportunity to talk to our members, since our members can earn time dollars by volunteering for these organizations that help our community. So we want you to get to know them. We want you to get to know each other. And really, we want you to volunteer. So this evening, we're excited to host Jane Dougdale from Phoenixville Area Transition. And she is one of the organization's 8 core members. And she moved to Phoenixville 3 years ago and loves the community. But before that, she lived for a few years on a little farm in Charlestown Township with her daughter Karen's family. And before that, her family lived for 30 years in Radnor Township, where Jane taught English as a second language in public schools. And before that, she lived and traveled all over the world. And a fun fact about Jane is that her 3 children were born on 3 different continents. So ask her about that. And now she likes to garden. She likes to do photography, cooking, writing, and especially poetry writing. She's always been an activist of one kind or another, mostly for the environment. So without further ado, Jane Dougdale, take it away.
Thank you all so much for being here. I'm going to share my screen now, and I'm going to put the, I hope, here we go. There we go. There's the share. And then I'm going to put, there we go. Does everybody see it? Does everybody
looks good.
See it? Is it a whole screen?
Whole screen, yep.
Okay, this is what we do and how we do it, Phoenixville Area Transition. Phoenixville Area Transition is a movement to build community resilience by reorienting the local economy and culture to nature and personal relationships. We're transitioning from dependence on fossil fuels and multinational corporations to interdependence with each other and with nature. Our mission is to educate as well as to help out. And here I am with Rodney, the other co-founder of Phoenixville Area Transition, at the Good Food Fair in fall 2019 in Kimberton, doing some education. And on the right, members of the gardening team get the Giving Garden at Reservoir Park Community Garden ready to plant to help out with food insecurity in the community. The Transition Towns movement grew up in response to growing awareness in two areas. First, growing awareness of the unsustainability of our present industrial growth society, realization that we are too dependent on oil, that global supply chains are therefore unsustainable, especially in the face of climate change, and that the consumer economy is leading to massive inequality as it's based on domination, extraction, and waste. The second awareness spreading was the idea of permaculture, a permanent culture that would be sustainable because it would be based on principles of nature. Localization of the economy and culture, use of renewables, producing no waste, valuing diversity, overlapping functions, and based on the threefold ethics of being good for people, good for the earth, and sharing the surplus. The permaculture principles expose the unsustainability of the industrial growth society, which is destroying the natural world. So Rob Hopkins, the founder, has said this of the movement. Our idea was a simple one. If we wait for governments, it will be too late. If we act as individuals, it will be too little. But if we act as communities, it might just be enough, and it might just be in time. Rob Hopkins set to writing about his town's experiences, and very soon there were transition towns popping up all over the world. Today, there are more than 1,000 around the world and around 200 in the US. Phoenixville Area Transition was welcomed in 2019 officially as the 166th US transition town. Many of us have worked and still work with various environmental groups, but transition is different from other environmental groups because it's broader than one or two issues. It sees everything connected. It even emphasizes the importance of recognizing the soul effects of the industrial growth society, the separation of self from itself and from nature. Transition doesn't really fight issues. It holds out a vision of a better world possible for everyone as we transition to a more holistic, connected community. Rodney and I co-founded Transition Phoenixville, but we came to it by different paths. Here's the 10-year timeline of our journeys to transition from 2008 to 2018. Whoops, I've got to get up there. There we go. There's our timeline. Do you all see this, your screen sharing across the?
No.
Maybe you can see it. Okay, good. So here's the timeline. And here I can go through it. In 2008, I saw this movie, How Cuba Survived Peak Oil. And I also read David Korten's book, The Great Turning. And from these, I heard about the Transition Towns movement for the first time. In 2009, Media in Delaware County founded Transition Town Media, and Rodney was there and he became part of that. And in 2014, I was part of a workshop that Transition Town Media presented, and I got excited about it. In December 2017, Rodney had already moved to Phoenixville, and he got the Colonial Theater to show Tomorrow, the documentary, which features transition towns. And when I saw it, I got excited again. Rodney and I started talking about doing something about it, so we did. We sat down, we made a list of all the groups and the people that we knew in Phoenixville that might be interested, and we invited them all to our first meeting in May 2018. We had about 25 people. We told the people that attended our first meeting about what we had been learning, and that we would start by envisioning with them what Phoenixville would look like if it transitioned to something they really wanted. We broke into groups, and when we came back, we listened to each other. This vision statement on our website is taken from the words that were recorded at that meeting. Adrian Bowden, one of the original enthusiasts, helped us get the website up. And you can access our website at www.pat.community. Camp Hill Soltane, where Adrian was the director, was one of our first partners, and we were invited to use their community arts Phoenixville on Bridge Street. We gathered there one Sunday a month for the first year. Adrian envisioned a community-supported lunchroom, and he brought it to pass at Soul Kitchen on Bridge Street. He invented an alternative currency that was online as well as handmade from textiles woven by the Camp Hill Soltane members. Tuesdays and Wednesdays for many of us came to mean yummy, home-cooked savory pies, soups, salads, and custard tarts with friends from all walks of life, from the unhoused to the mayor. Soul Kitchen operated throughout 2019 and into 2020 until the pandemic. Adrian moved back to Norway that summer with his family, but we treasure the possibilities that Soul Kitchen made tangible. Rodney continued to plan film forums at the Colonial Theater and elsewhere. We showed the sequel at Schuylkill Friends Meeting to a packed house. We're showing it again at the Colonial Theater next week, Thursday, March 31st at 7 p.m. Do come. It will be accompanied by another short film, The Connectivity Project. I keep losing my cursor. Summer Solstice was the brainchild of Mark Connolly, and the Kimberton Amphitheater couldn't have been lovelier. On June 22nd, 2019, when hundreds turned out to celebrate the sun with music, yoga, balloons, and good vibes. We're planning the next Summer Solstice celebration at the same venue on Saturday, June 18th this year, 4 to 9 p.m. in collaboration with Heartwood, and as the opener in the Kimberton Arts Alliance Summer Series. Some of us are meeting on Tuesdays to help plan the next event. So watch for those notices, and we would love to have you help us. Inner Transition is the working group formed by some self-starters who recognized that to transition out of this industrial growth society, we would need to change from within, each one of us. Victoria O'Neill organized monthly reflections of the spirit to consider what great religious leaders have had to say about values that we need to cultivate. At Winter Solstice 2019, Katie Tandon led us in a lengthy meditation about connecting with others here and around the world. We held another Winter Solstice in December 2021, led by Vincent Tavani of Heartwood. When Community Arts Phoenixville expanded their schedule to Sunday events, we discovered a new home at the Bookworm Nonprofit Center on Main Street, where we met until the pandemic. This is a beautiful old restored house on the campus of Phoenixville Hospital, which opened its doors to nonprofit groups. We loved this space and were very grateful for the chance to meet there until the pandemic put us on Zoom. One of our most active working groups adopted the name Living Landscapes to describe their mission of building life-enhancing gardens across the community. This grew out of the community garden at Reservoir Park on the north side of town, which had already been going on for several years. Last summer, we distributed more than 200 pounds of produce to food pantries around town from Transition's Giving Garden up there. Since the fall of 2019, Living Landscapes has been active with Communities That Care in producing a monthly library series with sessions on everything related to the garden, from composting, planting, flowers, and soup making, You can access the online sessions at youtube.com/Phoenixville Library and then search for Gardening Around the Village. In January 2022, the library opened its doors and we've held 2 on-site workshops so far. One on making tea bags, as you can see the friend on the right holding up, and one on planting by the stars. Next week, we'll hold the second tea bag making workshop because the first one was sold out or had a waiting list. And we're also having a healthy eating session. You can check out the library calendar to register for these. The library adult calendar. Tara Doherty, one of our core members, brainstormed the sale of mini Victory Garden pots at the beginning of the pandemic, inspired by the Victory Garden poster that this idea was sent to us by a friend. With help from Colonial Gardens Nursery and Jack's Farm at the farmer's market, we sold 37 of these pots and about 20 lawn signs. Charlene Briggs, an herbalist from Temple University, started a community medicinal herb garden at Reservoir Park. And it's the mint and the tulsi, or holy basil, from that garden that we use to make the tea bags, community. Charlene's vision is to promote foraging around town, especially so that the unhoused and the food insecure can have an alternative source of food and medicine. In June 2020, the Living Landscapes and Films Working Group jointly presented a film forum promoting the idea of turning our lawns into meadow gardens. And then at one of our Living Landscapes monthly meetings last summer, Shannon Zabko led a discussion up at Reservoir Community Garden about using native plants. Monthly meetings are always the last Friday of the month. And this Friday, March 25th, 6:30 to 8 p.m., Living Landscapes will hear from Jonathan T. Rizzo, a consulting arborist, part of the Phoenixville Tree Advisory Commission. Join us at the Hart Center, 34 Hall Street, in the boardroom. We'd love to have you join us for the Living Landscapes monthly meeting. At the beginning of the pandemic, we met each week and we realized we could work on our mission of connecting people and groups by publishing a weekly letter with things to know and ways to help the community and ways that people could help the community. Since then, we've produced the Resilience Report at least once a month. If you'd like to receive it, contact us on our website, www.pat.community. And yes, the whole word community is the domain name. Much of the work that we do is in collaboration with other groups in the area. Phoenixville has upward of 70 nonprofit groups, so we sure don't want to try to reinvent something that's already working. Several of these groups have become key collaborators with us. One of the first groups we worked with is the Phoenixville Area Green Team. Recently, we've been working intensively with the Green Team to save the green space of the kindergarten center that the school district is tempted to sell for high-density housing. This kindergarten center is located on 2nd Avenue. This is the river here, and this is the railroad track. Currently, we're promoting a petition to save the center before the next board vote, which is scheduled for next Monday, March 28th. Please sign the petition on our resilience report, which came out yesterday. And then come to the meeting in the high school cafeteria on Monday, March 28th. Last summer, we established a joint effort with Green Team called Re Plastics, which is moving ahead on a project called Sustainable Storefronts. This was inspired by our screening The Story of Plastics at the Colonial Theater in June 2021. Diversity in action is valued in the transition movement, just as it is valued in permaculture. Phoenixville's Diversity in Action, or DIA, is a group we have partnered with from the beginning. After the Phoenixville High School students led the March of Thousands through Phoenixville after George Floyd's murder, DIA organized twice monthly vigils to continue to support Black Lives Matter. Transition members have produced several of the virtual vigils, which are held on the first Thursday of the month. The live vigils are held on the third Thursdays. In addition, we're on a task force to renew the Civil War Centennial Memorial in Reeves Park, which currently houses a mural more suited to celebrating the Confederate lost cause than to celebrating our diverse community. Dr. Tim Doherty, who teaches at Westchester University, chairs this inspiring task force. Time Bank was the first group I joined when I moved to Phoenixville area in 2013, and it's fitting that Transition is now an organizational member of Time Bank. Our goals overlap in many ways, since Time Bank is structured to trade time and talents outside the money economy. Time Bank's annual spaghetti dinner each fall is a lot of fun, especially when it's in person. This was the dinner in 2019, and that's our Mayor Pete in the black wig. That was a hoot. We helped connect the Repair Cafe effort to Time Bank, and it became a Time Bank activity group. Before the pandemic, it met 4 times a year and encouraged people to get the fix for free as volunteer fixers shared their expertise to repair local treasures. A virtual effort didn't work, but Repair Cafe is now planning to start up again on June 4th, 2022. But we're not waiting until then to start fixing things. Next weekend, on April 3rd, we're holding a mending workshop at Seamless Sewing Arts, 313 Bridge Street from 1 to 3 p.m. Bring your socks and sweaters with holes. To register, check out our latest resilience report at pat.community. Heartwood, an ad hoc arts community focusing on eco-poetry and live performance, grew up in the summer of 2021 from the vision of Vincent Tavani and friends like Henrik, the founder of the Firebird Festival. Here we are meeting under the Firebird construction. Vincent will be the program chair of the 2022 Summer Solstice celebration. After Altair Eco Village invited us to lead a permaculture discussion session, which led to the formation of a permaculture activity group within Time Bank. And here we are helping out at the Altair Eco Village Woods in Kimberton. In fall of 2020, 5 core members attended regenerative leadership training led by Transition US. I'd like to leave you with the resource that was most meaningful to me from that training, a little booklet put out by movementgeneration.org called From Banks and Tanks to Cooperation and Caring. And the graphic at the centerfold of the booklet entitled A Strategy Framework for a Just Transition. Here it is. This graphic shows what I think is the work of transition. Transition implies moving from one thing to another. We know in our hearts that our current system is not sustainable or just. We could double down on what we have now, an extractive economy, which the circle on the left describes. Or we could move to a more sustainable and just system, which the circle on the right describes, a living economy. A just transition would be movement to this system, which is rooted in more justice for all. This graphic describes the main components of each system. The resources, where's the resources? Yeah, the resources, the worldview, the work, the purpose, and the governance system of each system. If you look at the left part of the graphic, you'll see it's called the extractive economy because it extracts resources without replacing what has been taken. In other words, dig, burn, dump. It's also extractive because the worldview of this system, see the circle on top, is based on consumerism, which is taking, and colonialism, which is taking from others. And the system of work, here in the central part of the circle of this system, is exploitative in the sense that labor is paid as little as possible. And the purpose of the system is to enclose wealth and power. In other words, to make the rich richer, which many studies have shown has happened with our form of capitalism. And the form of governance in the bottom circle is militarism, because most people do object to having their labor and their resources extracted without just recompense, and ultimately they need to be kept in line by force. What most of us would prefer is represented in the circle on the right, the living economy. This system would be based on regenerating resources, that is, making sure that they are replaced. The type of work would be cooperative, and the worldview would be based on a sense of caring and sacredness, both for people and for the earth. The purpose of the system would be ecological and social well-being for all, and the form of governance would be deep democracy. At the bottom of the graph, you can see that one of the routes to getting there from here is to put our actions through what movement generation calls a values filter. And the next slide shows the values filter a bit bigger. So here is what movement generation calls their values filter. A just transition, they say, must value these things. Number one, shift economic control to communities. And this is about valuing localization. We want to localize the economy, and along with it, the power to make bottom-up decisions instead of top-down. Second, we want to democratize wealth and the workplace. That means that we value more equitable income and more cooperative work situations. Number three, advance ecological restoration. So we value a regenerative ecology, one that can sustain us, that can rebirth itself. We value racial justice and social equity. We've learned that racial injustice is integral to the extractive economy. It's basic to systemic exploitation. Number five, we value local production and consumption as much as possible. Buy local, make local. And finally, we value the cultures and traditions that our colonial past tried to wipe out. We value diverse cultures and we support them instead of erasing them in a globalized industrial growth culture. It's good to remember that permaculture was inspired and informed by indigenous wisdom. This values filter should help us to decide what to focus on, and perhaps it will help you understand a little bit more about how and why we do what we do. If these values match yours, join us. Read our website, pat.community, and let's work together. So if you have any questions, I'd be happy to try to answer them. Thank you so much, Rachel.
Thank you, Jane. That was really inspiring. I don't know about the rest of you, but I'm so thankful that that you shared that with us tonight.
Thank you.
So
Thank you
with
so
that,
much for having us.
who has a question for Jane? Feel free to put it in the chat or raise your hand, or just feel free to come off mute.
So, hi, Jane.
Hi,
So
Mary.
that was a fabulous presentation. As Rachel said, very inspiring. And I do have to comment that the first, I'm sorry, help me out here. The first transition town was in Devonshire, in England.
Yes, it was. Are you from there?
I'm from England, not from Devonshire, but which is a beautiful part of the country. But I was interested in that because the town that I grew up in was actually the first garden city in England, which was founded by a Puritan who had seen all the working people in London in the pubs drinking. So he founded this town, which had a lot of parks and no pubs.
Oh,
so
they were healthier.
Yes, but I just thought that was so interesting. And I was very impressed with the graphic that you showed us, the extractive economy. And
isn't that amazing?
It really just brings it home. You know, we see what's going on now, but the one which is so exclusive, the extractive, which works on excluding people, and then the other one which works on inclusivity. And I just thought that was really fascinating. And I always know there's a lot going on in Phoenixville, but I really would love to get more involved with your organization. It just sounds really fantastic.
I would love that. Yeah. Yeah, this let's see. I'm trying to
Slideshow. Yep. And then from current slide.
Yeah, I have to go through the whole slideshow to get there. So I think I won't do it. But that graphic, the reason I like it so much is just for that, Mary, that it names these components of the system that we're in. And we tend to take them for granted. But, you know, when you put a name on it, then you realize, well, it could change.
Yeah, you see the possibilities and what can be done. And it's just so inspiring. And actually, I have to ask this question about your 3 children being born on different continents. I'm fascinated by that.
Oh, yes. Well, our first was born in England because we went to England in the 60s.
Whereabouts in England?
In Brentwood, just south of London.
Is that Middlesex?
Southeast of London.
Yes.
In I think it is Middlesex. Yeah. Our second daughter we adopted when we were living in Brazil.
Oh.
And then our third daughter was born in Houston, Texas.
Wow.
So we have Europe, South America, and North America.
That is amazing.
Yeah, it was an adventurous time in our early marriage. Yeah, and our children have all also valued international education, so they've all studied abroad.
That's wonderful.
Yeah,
wonderful.
Thanks for asking. But we would love to have you join us. I mean, any of these events that we're on. I mean, and please email me. Is my email there in the chat?
I'll put it in there.
Yeah, please feel free to email me. And like I said, there's several events coming up right away, like Living Landscapes on Friday. And then we have the school board meeting and the library events next week, and the movie on Thursday. So come to any of those and we'll meet each other in person.
Oh, that would be lovely.
And Rodney's going to tell you something.
Well, I just said there will be a discussion after the meeting. There will be people able to connect between the films, and there will be a short discussion, 15 to 20-minute discussion afterwards. And Vincent Tavani of Hardwood will be speaking at one point I think at the end. I'll do the introduction, and anyway, I'm looking forward to it.
Oh, yeah, and I think the movies are both very relevant to transition.
Indeed.
Um,
Yeah, and spread the word, guys. We're all
Indeed.
brothers here and
Yeah.
sisters. Jane, Rachel, I think it was Mary who mentioned she liked the graphics. We talked a couple years ago about making that as a poster.
That would be wonderful, wouldn't it?
And
Yeah.
I really think we should, and actually have them available for people at a cost, of course.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, that's a great idea.
All right, we'll talk about that. Okay.
Indeed. Yeah, please. Yeah, please don't forget.
Oh, good. I won't then. Thank you.
I had a question actually.
Yeah, Janelle.
Anne's Heart, I know, has like their own like community garden, I guess. Did Transition help them put that together, or was that
Oh, listen, that community garden in front of the Heart Center is made by Trellis for Tomorrow, who has their
Oh, okay.
offices there. They
Yeah.
are real pros, and I don't know how they get their garden to be so lush, but they really know how to do it. So yeah,
Okay.
Trellis for Tomorrow is a first-class community gardening organization, and we're really fortunate to have them here in town.
Okay,
I'm hoping-
I wasn't sure if it was them or you
Yeah.
guys that helped.
Yeah, I'm hoping that they will inspire a community garden at the kindergarten center. If hopefully it gets saved from the bulldozer.
Yeah, that was my other question. I put in chat, like, where are you guys at with the signatures for that?
Oh, I think they're building. There's more than 500 already. So if you know anything about Facebook, please find the petition on. There's two sites that it's on. It's on, you're from Phoenixville when,
Yep.
and it's also on the Good, the Bad, and the Ville. And if you scroll down and find the petition, be sure to comment on it. Well, first of all, you have to join. And I
Yeah,
think it
I'm a
takes
part of the one.
You're
and
part of
I've-
one. Oh, well, then
I've signed it. It's the second you sent it out, I signed it.
Oh, excellent. Well, go back and make a comment, because what happens when you comment on it, like just say, come on, everybody, sign this, then it pushes it to the top of the scroll. And it needs to be at the top of the scroll for people to see it. Otherwise it gets buried. So you can help it all weekend by just going, finding it and commenting and keeping it at the top of the scroll. That is one of the activist actions that we were schooled in at a meeting last night.
And it would be helpful, anyone who has the wherewithal to actually show up at the meeting on Monday.
Oh, absolutely. Monday night at the high school cafeteria.
Well, I would, but it's
If you-
I can't get there from here.
That's
I
okay.
always,
Well,
Janelle, it's great to see, well, I'm not seeing you, but I know you're there. I always say, find a proxy. If you really want to be there,
I
you can
did
find
the
someone
first
else.
time, but yeah,
Now, well, listen to me though.
I am listening.
If you really want to go and you can't do it, find someone else to go. Talk somebody else to go.
And actually, you could be a big help by doing just what I said on Facebook.
Yep.
By driving the signatures. Our teacher was telling us that by doing that, we could drive the signatures way up.
I have a question unrelated to the petition in the kindergarten center, but I'm just really struck by how much stuff you guys are doing. There's so much stuff, and it's awesome. And I'm just wondering, like, from so many organizations, you hear like there's this volunteer fatigue, or it's hard to get people to volunteer, and like, what is it, like 7% of people in America volunteer. And I'm wondering if you have cracked the code And if so, if you could
did you
share
do
your
it?
secrets.
I don't know. I think part of it is having people who are who have come on to do what they love to do, and then just letting them go, letting them do it, like Rodney with films, you know, just letting him go. And then our Living Landscapes group, that's really what they want to do, and just let them do it. And I think it's important that our core group meets just to hear from one another what each other is doing. But the core group doesn't really, you know, try to tell anybody what to do. It just kind of tries to keep us together. Rodney, how would you characterize?
Well, I agree, but at the same time, I think that the synergistic chemistry of our core really, really helps. Actually, there have been plenty of times when we've completed each other's sentences. And you know what that's like. I mean, you know, especially when Melissa Greer and Adrian were there. Do you remember right before the pandemic? Oh boy, it was crazy. We come away really fired up. An hour and a half in a core meeting, we come out ready to conquer the world. But you've had so much energy yourself, Jane. I'm just amazed.
Well, I'm just doing exactly what I really want to do.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm very inspired by the transition movement. And the one thing I wish that we had more time for, we've done a little bit of it, is to work with the Transition US, because they have so many good things going on. It's hard to find the time to get involved, but if you're interested in learning more about what's going on all around the country, just transitionus.org.
And I guess just a follow up to that. So, you know, at the Time Bank, our goal is to have more members so that there is a more robust network of people to exchange services with. And obviously it's a little different at Transition. And I'm wondering if your goal is to increase your mailing list, or if it's to grow your working groups, or just to expand your reach in the community by doing community events, all of the above.
I think it's kind of all of the above. But we're not a membership organization. That's a big difference. Another big difference is that we don't aspire to be a nonprofit. Adrian early on advised us not to go that route just because we didn't need to, because as a group, our mission is to connect. And so if we have an event like this summer solstice, where we have to have insurance in order to have an event at the amphitheater, we've hooked up with another organization that is a nonprofit that does have the insurance. And so I think I remember him saying that if you get to a point where you can't find somebody to co-sponsor with you, then you're not doing what you should be doing. In other words, you should always be able to, that's part of your mission, is to connect with other groups.
Right, that makes sense. Well, you are welcome to connect with the Time Bank.
We're very poor. We don't even know how we're going to pay our next website bill. So we are going to have to make a little bit of money to pay for the website.
Jane, is there a place to donate on your website?
Hey, we do need to do that, Jane.
We really do need to do that. Let's make sure, remind me to put that on our agenda for the next core meeting. We need that donate button. Yeah. It may be on there and I just don't remember it, but
I don't think it is, Jane.
I kind of don't think it is.
Yeah, I
Yeah,
think we activated that only for events.
but you're welcome to send a check and I'll make sure it gets to the right place. The green team is going to be our banker for the summer solstice event. Yeah, they have a bank account.
Maybe
But
maybe we could continue to use them actually on an ongoing basis. We have included them in so much. We've done a lot for them as much as they for us.
Right.
Yeah. Or maybe the time bank. Hey, guys, maybe. I mean, we
What do you
kind
think,
of,
Rachel?
We'd
You
love
all
to
have a-
partner you with you on an event.
Yeah, you'd love to?
Yeah. that would be
sure.
great.
Oh, okay. Well, you do with the repair cafe.
Yes.
Yeah.
Oh, and other
hopefully that'll
things
get
as
going
well.
again.
yeah. And Jane, we kind of grew out of time bank also and have relied on time bank from time to time. It
Yeah,
makes sense. We are, and actually we are a group member, so, you know.
right. Yeah. So that does make sense, actually.
All right, maybe you can, I would like Rachel to join us on our next core, if she would.
Tour of what?
Core meeting.
Oh, core. Oh. that's
So
an
we can
interesting
talk
thought.
about that.
Oh, yeah.
Let me
Yeah.
know when it is.
Maybe it's always the first Tuesday of the month at 7 p.m. on Zoom. And would there be a way to formalize a financial arrangement with Time Bank?
Let's talk offline about it.
Okay, great.
It's been done before. Time Bank had a, what was it? It was a coalition for refugees.
Yeah, I know what you're
Oh.
talking about.
Yeah,
Okay.
and there was a financial deal in that one too. So.
So, just real quick, Jane. So, talking about, regenerating resources, and I'll look at your website because I just feel there's so much more I could be doing. And, I put my plastic bottles in the recycle thing, but
Good.
I just feel that, I do feel very strongly about what's going on and how we're destroying our planet, but then I don't want to feel helpless that, I'm not doing anything. And I think that's probably where your organization could help me.
Well, the Re Plastics group is organizing the sustainable storefronts. They meet the second Monday of each month. And I believe there's a link to their meetings on the Green Team, Phoenixvillegreenteam.org. But
Okay.
I'll make sure you get a link to that because their sustainable storefronts is a start to get people to use more renewable resources in town. But there's also somebody on that team who's working on a ban for single-use plastics in the borough. And that sounds like something you might be real interested in.
Absolutely.
Yeah, so let's put you
Yes.
in touch
Hey,
with.
Mary, I mean,
Yes.
Jane, and Mary, I would, let's see, I would like to continue a little elaboration of that. We've been using Westchester as mentors on this and they have a sustainable storefronts there, and we're not doing exactly the same, but we're molding it to what our conditions are here. And it's starting out as a voluntary ban on takeout materials, especially. And there's a current drive from the stores especially on Bridge Street, to build a record of interested businesses to convince the borough to actually take us under their wing for a future ban. But we're doing it voluntarily right now, and we're having some pretty good success. Of course, there are a few restaurants who do a hell of a takeout business, and they're pushing back. But Kimberton Whole Foods is being very helpful in mentoring us for their suppliers on materials, takeout materials, and so we can actually order in bulk to keep the costs down, which will, instead of being 5 times more expensive than plastic, it may be only twice or something like that. And
Right.
with the voluntary inclusion or joining and involvement in this, they would get credit as in terms of community recognition, and hopefully eventually borough recognition for their work, which would help publicize their work. I mean, their business.
Mm-hmm. That sounds great.
Mary, do we have your email? Because I'll put you in touch with Sally Doyle, is the chair of that working group.
Oh, great. Should I just type it in the?
Oh, yes, please. That would be great to everyone.
Sure. Oh, yeah.
Well, you got one volunteer, Jane.
Yeah, wow, that's worth the whole evening to get Mary as a volunteer. That's great. ASKEWM. Ooh. ASKEWM4@gmail. Okay. Sally will be very glad to hear from you.
Oh, good.
ASKEW. How do you remember that? That's a good
Don't
one.
ask.
Okay. Great. Well, it's good to see you, Mike. Good to see John and Janelle and everybody.
And thank
Thank you
you
all
again for being
Much for coming.
tonight.
Yes, thank you so much. It was
Okay.
really so
And,
inspiring.
Share the link to the recording with us, and we'll get it on our website.
Great. I will do that shortly.
Thank you all so much. Have a
Thank
wonderful
you.
evening.
Thank
night,
you.
everyone.
Thank you,
Thank you
Rachel.
all. Good to see you also, Mike.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
Bye.
Bye-bye.